And we have our chief intuitionalist from St. Paul's Free University, Amy Elmore, here to talk to us about forgiveness. Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy, and like Dave said, I'm an intuitionalist, which
I can't hear you.
oh, okay, is that better?
A little better, yeah.
Okay. I am a Reiki practitioner and intuition reader. But first, before I go into my talk, I just want to say a quick thank you to St. Paul's for putting on this event. I think it's an important topic that needs to be discussed. Also, thank you to my fellow speakers who put in a lot of hard work today. A lot of preparation and thought goes into putting these events together. So thank you so much for your hard work. And also thank you for showing up today on this blustery day for a very difficult, emotional topic. And for those of you watching at home, thank you so much. It's a difficult thing to go through, and I hope you get some knowledge, and also you'll be receiving some compassion and understanding of what you're going through. So forgiveness, why should we forgive those who have betrayed us, especially if they don't ask to be forgiven? It's difficult to even think about forgiveness when we're in the midst of anger and resentment, especially if it's caused by someone we love and trust, family. Most of us see forgiveness as maybe letting someone off the hook when we're expected to kind of disregard our own feelings, just because, that's what we're supposed to do as a society. To be a good person, we're supposed to just disregard our own feelings and take the high road. But, is that what we're doing when we choose to forgive? Is forgiveness a sign of weakness or compliance? And who benefits from forgiveness? Does the abuser or the victim benefit from forgiveness? When the pain of betrayal is really fresh, it feels impossible to really think about forgiveness, especially if that's a family member. Our family is supposed to support us and be trustworthy and protective. So that betrayal is extra traumatic when it hits that close. When we haven't, in the stage of betrayal, when we haven't yet reached that stage of anger and resentment, it's important to allow ourselves some time to process what had happened. Maybe even see a counselor for some talk therapy. But eventually when the shock wears off and anger begins to surface, and by this time if the offending family member hasn't tried to make it right or even apologized, then that's where resentment can develop, and eventually it can turn into bitterness. And those are two very damaging emotional responses if left to fester. Some of our family members may even want us to forgive and forget, all for the sake of peace, even if the other person isn't acknowledging their transgressions. That can be painful when everyone wants us to just sweep our painful emotions under the rug so that they can all have nice family gatherings where everyone is smiling and happy and having a good time, because nobody wants to worry about a family brawl that's going to ruin their birthday parties or holiday dinners. And perhaps they don't even want to have to choose between two fighting family members. It can be really awkward for everyone when there's discord in the family. So how does resentment harm us and not the other person, though? If we don't process and release this anger and resentment, eventually turns into bitterness and cynicism. And just like fresh wounds, if we don't treat them and we pick at them and poke at them, we reopen them and they begin to fester. and the scars that they leave become deeper, and they never heal properly. But if we cleanse those wounds, even if they're really painful, eventually they will heal properly. For example, if someone pushes you down in the street and doesn't apologize, or you're just gonna lay there in the gutter, filthy and dirty and angry until they decide to come back and apologize? No, because they're gonna move on, they're gonna move forward, and we'll be stuck there, laying in the gutter, painful and angry and resentful. And, I think we deserve better. We deserve to heal. And so how do we move past the anger to forgive when this pain cuts so deep, or the other person doesn't show any remorse? For us, family betrayal, for some of us, I should say, family betrayal isn't a one-time event. There may be some of you where it's a regular thing, like it's an okay thing in the family. Some of us have abusive or toxic family members. We didn't grow up in society's nostalgic definition of a family, like a happy little Norman Rockwell painting, or, Hallmark cards that are all, touchy-feely. And how do those of us that grew up that way, how do we release that anger and resentment caused by family betrayal? Also it could be extra painful too when people don't understand what that's like to grow up in a family where things are not, your typical American family. I've experienced a lot of people trying to tell me that I should, look the other way, and that family's important, and that you should be, absolutely loyal and happy and joyful to be around your family. And some people just can't possibly relate, so sometimes it's hard to seek out, friends to be understanding. And perhaps, you've had to forgive and forget multiple times. Like I said, it might not be a one-time event, and maybe you're just emotionally spent and done, and you don't want to have to deal with it anymore. How can we still forgive? First, I think we should take a look at what forgiveness actually means. Often we associate forgiveness with compliance. And compliance means that we submit or that we agree to. And nobody wants to comply with someone who has betrayed us or hurt us, especially when they're not sorry, or that they deny they did anything wrong, or even worse, they push the blame on us as if we did something wrong. So does forgiveness mean that we give someone a get out of jail free card, like a Monopoly? Is it acceptance or approval of someone else's behavior? Does it mean that we dismiss our own feelings or emotions? No, often we misunderstand the true meaning of forgiveness. So I'm just going to read the actual definition, Ralph Webster's. Is to stop feeling angry and resentful for an offense, flaw, or mistake. And some synonyms of forgiveness are pardon, mercy, pity, clearing, understanding, and funny enough, indulgence. So if we examine that meaning closely, to stop feeling angry and clearing, it has very little to do with the other person who hurt us or betrayed us. Forgiving someone means that we're not going to be under their negative influence or suffer emotionally from the actions of someone else who we have absolutely no control over. Why should we continually be damaged emotionally by someone else's choices that we were a target of? I'm going to take a quick moment. I'm getting thirsty. Sorry. So when we're the target of this betrayal, we don't want to keep reliving that trauma. And by holding on to the pain, we're the ones that are suffering, not the other person. And I really don't think that's fair to any of us. So by forgiving, even if the person doesn't ask it of you, and especially if they don't ask it of you, we are all choosing to be taking care of our well-being, our emotions over being right. It's a form of self-care for ourselves, a healing both in the mind and the body. We hold on to emotional pain when it's stored into our body. There's actual chemical response caused by powerful negative emotions. You could ask just about any massage therapist and they'll tell you. So the act of forgiving actually releases those stored emotions from our body that would otherwise manifest into illness or actual pain. And if you don't deal with it, it does stay there. I was doing Wendy's exercise, and my situation happened 20 years ago that I had journaled about. And I hadn't realized that I hadn't dealt with it properly because all those emotions still came welled up, and I could barely write their name at the beginning of that exercise. So that tells me that I have a lot of work to do. So I thank Wendy for that exercise. I'm going to be doing some journaling, and I hope you guys do too. So, but getting back to forgiveness. What forgiveness means is releasing and detaching from harmful emotions caused by trauma of betrayal. And so we also hear, forgive and forget. What about the forgetting part? Does that mean that we are going to magically erase the memory from our mind of the trauma? Or that we act like nothing happened? No. That would make us into an emotional doormat and leave us open to keep experiencing, betrayal by others. And, we don't want to open ourselves to be hurted repeatedly. Besides, we don't come equipped with a delete button like it is on our keyboards, so unfortunately. So the truth is that part of the healing process of forgetting, it takes time and it is challenging. It doesn't mean that we have to put ourselves in a position to be hurt again. It simply means that we are going to move forward, that we don't focus on the betrayal, and that we don't keep talking about it. Like Wendy said, there is a time to vent, especially if you have a counselor or friends that can relate. But when it becomes habitual and we lose our ability to truly forgive, we can't grow and evolve as humans if we're wallowing in self-pity and in our pain for too long of a time. Eventually, in order to heal, we're going to have to let go and move forward. And that is what it means to forget. What about the benefits of forgiving? Who benefits? Well, we all do. Forgiveness only benefits the offender if they take responsibility for their actions. If they're not sorry one way or the other, they're not going to heal. They're not going to grow as a person, and they're going to stay stuck. And we don't want to be we don't want to be there with them, stuck in the same event that had happened in our life. Once we understand the meaning of forgiveness, and we're on the path of forgiving and forgetting, we increase our capacity to have compassion for others. And if we deepen our understanding that as human beings we are fallible, and that we're not perfect, and that we do whether we need to or not, step on each other's toes and hearts. We evolve emotionally and spiritually. And when we're being honest and we look deep within ourselves to see how we might ourselves have harmed other people in the past, or maybe some habits that are harming to ourselves or others that we need to work on, we start to free ourselves from the need to judge others when we take a look within ourselves. And some clues to that are our pet peeves, and also, we don't want to act the way other people do that gets on our nerves. That's a good indication. Also, things that bother us or annoy us are good indicators of looking deep within of things we may want to work on. And if we do a sincere and honest investigation into our shadow self, which I have done a video on that, and you could find it through St. Paul's, then our expectations of how we think others should behave and feel and react, begins to diminish, as well as any offense against us in the future begins to lose its power to affect us on a negative way. Also, how can we forgive ourselves for being imperfect and making mistakes if we can't forgive others for being imperfect, and vice versa? Especially if we can't, essentially, we can't be forgiven if we don't forgive. And so if you need a place to start on forgiving, start with yourself first. So I'd like to do a quick little exercise. A while back on YouTube, I saw this interview with a practitioner who is from Hawaii, who practices Ho'oponopono. And it's an ancient Hawaiian practice. There's a lot evolved in it, but they did share one aspect that they think that would help people. And it's deceptively simple, but it carries a lot of power. There's just 4 simple steps to it, but the benefit behind it is in order to heal the pain that's caused by others, we accept responsibility for maybe the pain we have caused others. And so before we seek forgiveness of those who harmed us, we first ask forgiveness for those who have harmed us, or people we have harmed, excuse me. We got it backwards. The first step is apology, then forgiveness, gratitude, and love. And if you guys would all like to do it with me, it's just very simple and straightforward, and you could probably remember it. But before we think about maybe, let's not start with maybe the family betrayal that brought you here. That's pretty powerful and probably should be done at home with more time. But maybe something smaller and more recent, like an aggressive driver, or maybe somebody who was really rude to you. So I just want you to kind of think of a recent situation, and if you can imagine that person, but now instead of that person, imagine that it's you are talking to. So if you guys would like to repeat after me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you, I love you, I love you.
I love you, I love you, I love you.
All right, and that's all there is to it. If you're still feeling some emotions, you can just keep repeating it till those negative emotions get less and lesser. And this is not going to be a cure for what you're going through right now, but it can just be a simple process that you could kind of add into your day if things get too emotionally charged. that forgiveness is an act of self-love, and it's a process of letting go and detaching from pain that's caused by others. And, you know, that's so that we're no longer a prisoner of that pain. And also to forgive is to show that we recognize also, you know, the shadow side within ourselves, and that we are all imperfect humans. And that as humans, all of us have a capacity to heal and harm, to hate and to love, to destroy and create, to resent and hopefully forgive. So thank you. Let's take another small break between speakers. And does anybody have any questions before I go?
Yeah. Forgiveness may not be that hard to do in some cases, but choosing not to put yourself in a position to be hurt by a person who has a cruel aspect is another thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
For sure, definitely, yeah. Especially, you know, when it's family, you know, there are times when no, you can't. You know, if it was a friend, sure, you can go your separate ways if they're a toxic person, but family is different.
No, this is family.
Yeah,
And
or family betrayal, so
I
yeah.
choose not to be around that person ever again.
Yeah.
Is there something wrong with that? Is that not forgiving? I mean, I feel like I can forgive. I just don't choose to put myself in a vulnerable position because this is a side of that person's personality that will repeat.
Yeah. Well, in that case, you know, like I said, forgiving is letting go. You know, forgetting doesn't mean that you wipe that memory. But, you know, if the person's behavior doesn't change, you know, that's on them. And you do have to give yourself space, especially if you keep getting hurt. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with giving yourself space between that person, especially if their behavior doesn't change. And it's hard because we feel guilty. You know, we feel like it's family and family should be loyal and be around each other. And, you know, we feel like, you know, are we gonna feel bad and guilty? And are we betraying our, you know, our own, you know, family? And, you know, sometimes you just have to realize if that person's behavior isn't gonna change, then you have to at least protect your own emotional well-being. You know, it might be really great to seek out professional help too, and just someone who's not part of the family and completely unbiased, just to talk, and then, you know, they can give you some tools, and if not, nothing else, just ear to listen to, and someone who's not gonna take sides, you know, or tell you what you should do or shouldn't do. So that's helped me a lot. So, and it's not easy, it's difficult, because the first response is to defend, but yeah, sometimes that's a painful choice that has to be made, so. But just remember, it's not on you, it's on them. So it's not okay to be a doormat. You deserve better. So, any other questions? No? All right, that's not bad.
I could say one other thing is on a totally different situation where it did not involve a family member, but I needed to forgive something, and I knew that, and I had been taught an exercise that worked really well, and it comes from a Christian perspective, but it probably could be translated into other perspectives. It's where somebody made the comment that in the Bible, Jesus was asked how many times they should forgive someone, and he said, 70 times 7. And so the exercise was to write down the thing you wanted to forgive 70 times a day for 7 days. And at the time I did that, and about the 3rd or 4th day, actually this first time I did it was a family member, a former family member. And about the 3rd or 4th day, I started feeling a shift in the energy. And by the end of it, I had a lot resolved. And then the next time I used that it was a totally different situation. I sold a house I built, and a woman had lied about her income at the very last minute, wasn't able to close, and I had kept it off the market for a long time to try to sell it. And I needed to do it fast because I had payments coming up to the bank. And so I typed it out. You have to write it or you have to type it. It can't be like a word processor and just repeat.
Yeah.
And I just did it all, I set aside a day, and I did it 70 times 7 in one day, and then I did another 10 for good measure or something. And the next morning, a real estate agent called me, and he brought buyers. I mean, I knew when I talked to him, that this was like a miracle, it felt like it. And like he was acting as an angel toward me.
Oh.
And when they came, I said, I can't do any kind of long-term deals, it's gotta be a good solid sale. And he said, no problem, they got cash, they got money, no big deal. They bought the house, everything was perfect. I feel like my forgiveness was what enabled that, was what made that happen, shift.
Yeah, it's that.
It's an easy thing to do, when you don't feel like forgiving, you can write it out.
Yeah, I've heard that too, like,
Yeah, it worked. It worked for me twice, maybe I need to try it some more.
yeah, that's a good idea, so, I don't know if you all heard, so if someone has a transgression towards you and you need to forgive, you write it down every day, 77 times for 7 days, and, that's an emotional release, so.
Yeah, it really did make a huge difference.
Exercise instead of for the body, for the mind, and the heart, actually. Thank you for sharing. Oh, I wanted to write that down.
Thanks. I've completely forgotten about that exercise, so I'm glad you reminded me.
All right, we'll take a break, and thank you again.